That Nigerian consumers have become more sensitive seems to be, well, an old news by now because of the macroeconomic realities that Nigerians have had to face in recent times. Well, a report by Seed Incorporated on Nigerian Consumer Outlook tells us the trend, the current trend for consumers in the country at this time. And we have right here in the studio to discuss some of their findings, the managing partner, Seed Incorporated, Olatubosun Akeju. Mr. Akeju, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
Great. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised. We live in Nigeria and we know the realities. Absolutely. And we've seen things change in the last couple of years. Yeah. So the fact that consumers are becoming more price sensitive shouldn't be news anymore. Yeah. But what are the other trends that you find in carrying out your consumer outlook reports? What are the other trends that you saw?
Thank you very much. Quite interesting. Like you said, price sensitivity is no news. The fact that Nigerians spend a significant portion of their income on food is also not news. But I think there are other things that were very interesting that we discovered, like the second thing Nigerians spend most of their money on is transportation, except in the Southeast, where it seems like rent is the second thing that they spend most of their money on.
So you mean in the Southeast, yeah, rent overtakes transportation?
Yes.
Wow,
in the Southeast,
how do you explain that?
Sincerely, it's one of the things we're still trying to unpack because an indicator of this problem is, I think, is Enugu State that is trying to come up with a new rent act or bill to be able to solve this problem. Another thing that Nigerians spend a lot of money, I mean, in Southeast, we found out that 16.4% of people's income was going to rent, while about 12.3% was going to transportation. But in...
Sorry, say that again, for transportation?
For transportation in Southeast, it's 12.3%, but for Southwest, it's 24.6%.
For rent?
For transportation.
For transportation.
So across the country, transportation is the second thing people spend most of their income on, of course, after food.
When you look at it
nationally, transportation is number two. But for Southeast in particular, where there seems to be a bit of an anomaly, rent is the second thing.
Because one would have thought that a lot of residents of the Southeast are from the Southeast, so they own their homes, and so they don't spend so much on rent.
Yeah, it's something that we couldn't unpack, I must confess, because we're still asking the question, what's really going on in the Southeast. And the third thing people spend most of their income on is education. Very, very interesting. Wow. And we also discovered that a lot of Nigerians are planning to spend a lot of money.
Do you have a percentage for the education?
For education across the country, we're looking at about 10.3%, but it then varies, across the socio-economic, the social region.
Yeah, but that sounds like a comforting thing, that education is, even though it's on an individual basis, it would have been nice if it was a national, I mean, from the public sector. So that means more attention is being given to education. That's hope for the future.
Yes and no. One of the things we try to do in this report is to identify the problems in an empirical way, and then to also be able to identify the opportunities that come with it and the policies that needs to be in place for us to be able to harness the opportunities. Spending, of course, a lot on food already is a challenge, but it also, shows an opportunity that food companies can thrive in Nigeria, agriculture can thrive in Nigeria, and there's economic opportunities and commercial opportunities when it comes to food. And we can see the evidences around us. In education, it shows that we can find a more concerted effort to fund education rather than just make it only the way we approach it right now. And I can draw a parallel between how the logic behind health insurance is let everybody pull a pool of money together so that those who need it the most can get the best out of that pool. And I think that opportunity exists also in education.
So I want to talk about food because I'm sure you know that our inflation basket has been rebased, and food has been given a lower value than it used to.
Okay.
Because according to the NBS, now Nigeria has a wider or bigger basket of expenditure. So you have things like your technology, your telecommunications, your entertainment at home. And from your findings, doesn't it look like perhaps the NBS has missed out something if you find that most of the spending in the country still goes to food? Doesn't that mean that we may not be able to capture the real inflation numbers if we are not giving as much value to food as we should?
To be very sincere, I do not know and understand the logic behind that approach of the NBS. And for us, who, like I said at the beginning, it is a problem, and there's also an opportunity that comes from it, because when you look at other countries, I use the UK sometimes as an example in situations like this, what people who live in the UK spend a significant portion of their income on is mortgage or rent. And it comes with its benefit. Food, spending so much on food is challenging. I mean, there are parts of Nigeria where people spend more than 100% of their income on food. That means sometimes those people are not eating. So food inflation, there are many things that can contribute, and we don't have to downplay it. I think we just need to work towards solving the problem and harnessing the opportunity that comes from that challenge. And like if you look at some of the fast-moving consumer goods companies that are listed on the stock exchange, you can see their numbers. I mean, when you look at it from the dollar terms, it might not look like there's been growth, there's been significant growth, but when you look at it from the naira terms, there's been significant growth, which means that there's a huge opportunity, you know, in the food business. So I just think that we need to look at the problem more closely and be able to solve it. We need to move from peasant farming to, you know, mechanized, and not just mechanized farming, technology-enhanced agriculture. I think it's one of the things we need to look, because we have to solve the food problem.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on that. Now, you also saw one of your findings is there's been the rise of necessity-driven entrepreneurship, building from all of this, because you keep emphasizing the fact that you don't just want to look at the numbers, but you also want to see the opportunities. And I guess this is one of it.
Yes, so from our findings, 31.7% Nigerians, or, you know, the almost 8,000 people we interviewed, are self-employed. And what we mean by necessity-driven is that majority of the people who are entrepreneurs today are entrepreneurs for survival. There's a challenge with that, because it means that skill is not an immediate objective, or next to immediate objective for majority of them. It's just to improve their lifestyle. And when you have situations like that, it means that people can't, you know, the opportunities that can come from a business to become a better employer of labor is significantly reduced, because if my objective is just to make my life better, I don't really
to make your life better, or survival?
Survival.
At this point, I think
survival,
it's just survival,
you know,
mostly.
So I think that, you know, policymakers need to look at it from that point of view, because it means that people need to be trained from a skill point of view and from a mental point of view. Businesses need to move from just being traders to being, you know, people that actually add value to whatever, you know, they're doing. And that way you can then build it to a point where you can scale it, and perhaps there are export opportunities that you can, you know, look at. But the numbers, like I said, again, is good that a lot of Nigerians want to be entrepreneurs, but how many Nigerians can build their companies to become a significant employer of labor, to ensure that the business is actually very much sustainable? And of course, we also need policies that can guide, that can protect some of these businesses to help them grow and become significant value-adding entity to the economy.
And I also see that power sector, obviously, I don't think we can run away from that.
No, we can't.
You got some findings from there.
Yes.
The switch to alternative.
Yes.
Another survival strategy, I think.
Again, so the issue with solar and renewable energy, but solar specifically, is that there's a lot of changes that needs to happen. But first of all, can we have power? And a lot of Nigerians now are interested in having a solar system at home, because it gives a guarantee of power. What that power is able to do for them, different levels, but it gives a guarantee of power for basic things. There's light, you can watch the TV, you can charge your devices. And we noticed that from above 35 years, the numbers and the percentage of people who want solar system in their house, who desire to have solar system in 2025 is significantly increased, as you go up that range. And like I said, there are opportunities there again for funding, because one of the impediment and the challenges that people are facing there is solar systems are capital intensive. So you need financing system opportunities, finance product, buy now, pay later product that can help people to acquire that and perhaps move people a bit off grid. And maybe if people move off grid, I mean, we'll probably be able to move some of them. Provide
the grid will collapse less. Okay, but okay. So in general, in summary, what are some of the high points, of this trend? So I mean, I'm still going to try to understand why in the southeast rent overtakes transportation when it comes to spending and all of that. But what are some of those high points that you think policymakers could use, to guide them in decision making?
I think we should start from power. I think that people moving to renewable is something that really should be encouraged and should be incentivized by government. I think that food is something that government needs to look at holistically across the country and ensure that we can drive down the cost of food, ensure that our agriculture, there's a lot of technology in our agriculture, there's a lot of mechanization in our agriculture, we can move away from peasant farming to more technology-driven farming so that we can have more food in the country and drive down that cost. I think that government needs to look at the intersection between some of the challenges. When you look at the top 5 things that Nigerians are spending money on, we're looking at food, transportation, education, utility, and rent. I see an intersection of opportunity there. For example, the Lekki, the coastal road is going to create massive real estate opportunity along that axis. I think the time is right for government to look at a mass housing project in that axis, so that when that opportunity arrives, what would have happened is not only the capitalists, and there's no problem with the capitalists, but they're not the only one that have taken over all the property opportunities along that axis. Because what will happen is that people will move to that axis again, and then we're going to say that, oh, rent is expensive, houses are expensive there, but there needs to be that balance, and also we really need to look at our mass transit infrastructure as a country. Transportation is too expensive in Nigeria, and I think one of the reasons that expensive is because it's highly fragmented. We do not have a very cohesive way of moving people and goods from point A to point B, and without that, we can't have the benefit of all the advantages that exist in the different parts of Nigeria. And I think that's one of the things that this report is screaming.
All right, so that fragmentation is also in the power sector, because
yes.
I mean, Lagos State has continuously told us how much power individuals generate,
yes.
which could power the whole state for
yes.
like a year.
Yes.
But we don't see that because it's fragmented.
Yes.
Unfortunately. Thank you so much for sharing your findings. Olatibo Swakeju, Managing Partner at Seed Incorporated.
Thank you very much for having me.